Chardon, hey, true crime fans. Welcome back to another episode of Chardon, hey, true crime. We are your hosts. I am Dakota, and with me is the lovely CM Addams. Welcome back.
Well, last time was a bit of a trip, you know.
Normally we do the show on Fridays. This week we are doing it on Sunday. That's just how the timeline ended up working out for us this week. You know, that's just life sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And you're definitely right about it being a trip.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's just going to get worse. So
it's going to get so much worse. I feel like it's accurate for this weekend, though.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, man. Alrighty. So, Charles Manson. Charles Manson. Dude. Just dude. My guy. My dude. Dude. He's right there.
You're right.
Dude.
It's like at this point, if you don't... Ugh.
Yeah.
All
right. Okay. So, in last week's episode, we talked about the early life of Charles Manson and his mother, and all the way up to when he began to form his infamous family. But in tonight's episode, we are going to start off with some of the most well-known members of the Manson family, starting with Charlie's first follower, Mary Brunner. Now, Mary Brunner is not quite as common a household name as, say, Susan Atkins or Patricia Krenwinkel or Linda Casabian or Tex Watson, but I feel like she is just as important as the rest of them.
Mm-hmm.
So Mary Brunner was born in Eau Claire, Wisconsin, to George and Elise Brunner, and she moved to California upon graduating from the University of Wisconsin-Madison in 1965 and took a job as a library assistant at UC Berkeley, where she met 33-year-old criminal Charles Manson, who had just been released from Terminal Island Prison several weeks earlier. She let him stay at her apartment, and the two became lovers after several weeks. I'm going to go ahead and call bullshit on that. Charlie definitely wouldn't have waited several weeks to bang Mary. It was several days, if that.
Mm-hmm. Especially since he's good with charm and stuff, you know.
Sorry, there used to be this store. I don't know if it still exists, but it was called Charming Charlie's.
Oh my gosh.
That's just what I thought of. Like that's immediately I was just like, oh, you said charm, and I was just like, oh, like Charming Charlie's, and then I was like, oh no.
Welcome to Charlie Charming's. You ready to, you know, drop those pants, I guess? I don't know.
Oh, God.
I guess that was his what was it? What is it? I guess that was his pickup line. Maybe that's what it was.
Yes.
I guess.
Oh no. I guess, yeah. But anyways, they became lovers, and she was thus the first person who Charlie recruited into his family. And she quit her job at the library of UC Berkeley. How do these fucking guys, like these guys who you know don't even know where the clit is, get these women to throw away their entire lives for them? I just don't understand that.
Probably because, just a theory, probably low self-esteem.
Yeah.
Probably not seeing their own self-worth, maybe.
I mean, yeah, that makes sense, because like these guys definitely don't know where the clit is. Like, let's be honest.
Oh yeah, they don't. They probably pretend it doesn't exist.
Yeah. I could totally see Charlie like gaslighting women and being like, "Oh yeah, that
orgasm doesn't exist.
It's a myth.
It's a myth.
It's a myth." Shut up,
Just
Charlie.
like people being happy in relationships. That's a myth. This is the 70s. Come on. I mean, no, the 60s.
It's the 60s. Yeah.
Yeah. Going into the 70s.
Anyways, she quit her job and the two began to drift around California in a van, meeting other young women. Now, Manson impregnated Mary during the summer of love, the summer of 1967, and she gave birth to a son on April 15th, 1968, who she named Valentine Michael. Thank God he does not have another son named Charles.
Right.
Like, he's already got 2 kids named Charlie. Like, come on. But get this. This poor kid has the most unfortunate nickname. His nickname was Pooh Bear.
Yeesh.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I would like Valentine sounds cooler.
Yeah, seriously. So back when I entertained the idea of possibly ever having a child, I always thought Valentine would be a cool name. And then I found out that it is the name of Charles Manson's child. And I was like, well, fuck me, right?
Right. No thanks.
So they began living in a condemned house. So they were squatting in a house in Topanga Canyon. And she was assisted during the birth by several of the young women from the family. She also acquired a number of aliases and nicknames during this time, including Morochi, Och. It's literally OCH, Och. Mother Mary, Mary Manson, Linda D. Manson, and Christine Marie Utes.
Why?
I don't. Just listen, if you're gonna have like a pseudonym, at least make it sound fucking cool. Like,
right.
Christ. I would like to formally request that my pseudonym for when I'm in a cult is something awesome, like, I don't know, Topaz Laser. Like,
that's freaking awesome. Like,
I literally just thought of that. Like, Topaz Laser.
You just have like laser guns, like that. Like whenever you enter a room, just a bunch of like a laser party. Like, just get like one of those strobe light things, and like attach it to my back, like on a backpack, and like every time I walk into a room, it's like a disco. Right.
They're like, oh god damn it, lasers here again. No, but so from Mary Brenner, you good?
Yeah, I'm good.
Choke on your wine?
Yeah.
Mood.
Went down the wrong tube.
Oh, I hate that.
We're good. We're good.
As we discussed at length last night in my D&D game, dolphins don't have that problem. Why do we?
Right.
Yeah.
Dolphins are lucky.
They're also like the biggest bullies of the sea, but it's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. Dolphins are like the jocks of the sea.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And for some reason, they're the ones that they want to put like in cute little movies with kids.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and sharks are like the art kids.
They are.
Yeah. Anyway, we're gonna go off on sharks versus dolphins, so I'm gonna get back into this.
Yeah,
so, anyways, from Mary Brenner, the two met a young woman, an 18-year-old, in Venice Beach, California. Her name was Lynette Fromm, and the three began to live together in a rented house at 636 Cole Street in San Francisco, which brings us to Lynette Squeaky Fromm.
All right. So Lynette Squeaky Fromm, she's actually one of the ones I'm more familiar with. Fromm was born in October 22nd, 1948 in Santa Monica, California. Lovely area. The daughter of Helen and William Millar Fromm. What was he? Yeah, he was an engineer. And as a child, Fromm performed with a popular dance group called the Winchester Laurettes. Neato.
Yes.
Which began touring the United States and Europe in the late 1950s and had an appearance on the Lawrence Welk Show and at the White House. So she had a very promising future, very talented,
So talented.
Right, very talented, right place at the right time. So it just makes you wonder what the fuck happened,
Well, I mean, it's the 60s. So Drugs and alcohol.
Drugs and alcohol, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, in 1963, the family moved to the Redondo house. Redondo, there we go.
Yeah.
Redondo Beach, and Fromm began using alcohol and drugs. There we go. Her grades dropped at the Redondo Union High School, but she graduated in 1966. So at least, she still graduated, which was, cool. She moved out.
It's not like it's hard.
Yeah. She moved out of her parents' house for a few months before her father convinced her to enroll in the El Camino College. She returned home after 2 months before her father kicked her out following an argument, rendering her homeless. So, getting involved with the wrong stuff, she just, started to go downhill. So it's like, you're the star child, you're doing great, and then whoosh, like a roller coaster. So, and what happens when people are starting to plummet? They get desperate.
Yep.
And in 1967, at the age of 19, Fromm dropped out of college and went to Venice Beach after her parents had thrown her out of the house. And she was very depressed, not knowing where her life is going. She sat on a curb and just watched a bus arrive. And then there we are. Charles Manson exits the bus. He stopped.
It's like one of the worst things that could possibly happen.
Yeah.
You're already in a low place, and then all of a sudden out pops fucking Charles Manson.
Right. And it's like, it's almost poetic because it's like you started off being at the right place at the right time, but then here you are at the wrong place at the wrong time, about to make some very wrong choices.
Yeah.
So Manson stopped. He looked at her, probably already knew what was going on, and said, "Your parents threw you out, didn't they?" And Fromm immediately decided that Manson was just the psychic, amazing wizard, probably like one of those little genies with the, whatchamacallit, fortune tellers that you see on like, Santa Monica Beach, which are pretty fun,
Your parents.
Yep. Oh my God, you're psychic. Oh my gosh, you're psychic. I must follow you.
Get in my bus, little girl. We're going to go do magic.
Hell yeah. Show me the magic.
God.
Well, yeah, so Manson walked away and Fromm picked up her belongings and followed him, and that's all she wrote.
And that brings us to Susan Atkins. Susan Atkins was born May 7th, 1948 in San Gabriel, California. She was of English, Irish, Scottish, and German descent. She was the middle child, because of fucking course she was.
Oh, yeah. No, I'm also a middle child. I get it.
Yeah.
So the moment you hear middle child, it's like, yep, I get it.
Yeah. So
I get it.
She's the middle child. She grew up in Northern California, and according to her parents, Jeannie and Edward John Atkins were alcoholics. Her mother died of cancer in 1964, and over the next 3 years, her life was disrupted by the gradual breakup of her family, frequent relocations, and leaving her home to live independently. And until she was 13, she and her family had lived in a middle-class home in the Cambrian Park area of San Jose. She was described by those who knew her as a quiet, self-conscious girl who belonged to her school's glee club and her local church choir, because of fucking course she did.
I kind of feel like this is just my humble opinion. I feel like the only reason she was probably in the church choir was out of obligation. But, that's just me.
2 weeks before her mother was hospitalized for the final time, Susan arranged for the members of the church choir to sing Christmas carols under her bedroom window. After Jeannie died, relatives were asked to help look after Susan and her two brothers. Oh God, not only was she the middle child, but she's like boy, girl, boy. She's the only daughter. That blows.
Jeez, of course.
Yeah. Anyway,
I can't even imagine singing Christmas carols under my fucking window while I'm dying. Like,
right? Ugh.
It's like I'm about to reach the brink of death and all I hear is, we wish you a Merry Christmas. It's like, I'm not having a merry anything right now. I'm in pain.
I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. When I was a Christian, the girls' Bible study that I was in went to some hospital and like sang Christmas carols to like people in the hospital. And I look back on that time and I'm just like,
Yeesh. It's like, I understand you had they probably had good intentions, but it's also like, it kind of reminds me of a series of unfortunate events when they're going around the hostile hospital.
Mm-hmm.
And they're with a bunch of volunteers that are just going around singing and handing balloons to sick people. And it's like, and even some of them are saying, I'm in pain right now. I don't want to hear songs. And they're like, oh, we can't hear you. We're singing so gleefully to cheer you up. Here's a balloon.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Mm-hmm.
But anyway.
Anyways, so she eventually moved to Los Baños, California, with her younger brother, Stephen, where he found work on the San Luis Dam construction project. Edward left the two children to fend for themselves to go work on the project. So Susan took a job during her junior year in high school to support herself and her brother. She had been an average student at Lee High School in San Jose, but her grades deteriorated when she entered Los Baños High School. And during this time, she also would move around a lot, living with several different relatives. So this poor girl is already dealing with like her mother just died, and she's like got this younger brother, and like her dad's an alcoholic, and then all of a sudden her dad just like fucks right off, and she's like, great, now I gotta like move all over the place to like different relatives' houses, and I gotta take care of my fucking brother. Like, yeah, honestly, ripe for the picking. So
yeah, and then constantly having to move around, that can psychologically damage your sense of security and safety, because it's like at any moment you can just have to pick up everything and leave. So it's like that just made her probably an easy target, because she's already used to that kind of lifestyle.
100%. So in December of 1966, she and two classmates decided to go to San Francisco over the Christmas school break. She left for San Francisco by herself and never returned to Los Baños to finish her senior year. In 1967, she met Charles Manson when he played guitar at the house where she was living with several friends. When the house was raided several weeks later by the police, Atkins was left homeless, and Charlie invited her to join his group, who were embarking on a summer road trip in a converted school bus painted completely black. 'Cause of course it was.
Yep.
I'm sorry. Charles Manson just strikes me as like the total pick me kind of guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He really is. Like, ugh. Girls just don't understand. I'm not like other guys.
I'm a real guy. I'm a real gentleman. I'll know what to truly take care of you, but I don't actually know where the clit is. But, we're going to gloss over that though,
Yeah. 100%. 100%. So she was later nicknamed Sadie Mae Glutz by Charles Manson and a man who were creating a fake ID for her at the time. And Susan would later claim that she truly believed that Charles Manson was Jesus.
It's like, I get it in that moment, especially with, her history, like with the church and stuff, and they're always talking about the end of times and Jesus is coming back and stuff. Like, God, Christians are so obsessed with that. So it's like, yes, to us, it's nonsensical, but I can understand with somebody who grew up in that environment. And I know I said earlier she probably went to church out of obligation, but now I'm taking that back. I think it was more out of trauma, needing something to hold on to.
I just needed something stable.
Yeah. And it feels like religion was probably the most stable thing she could have.
Probably, yeah. So I think that brings us to Leslie Van Houten.
Leslie Van Houten. Sorry, it just rolls off the tongue. But anyway.
Yeah.
Yes. So Leslie was born August 23rd, 1949 in the Los Angeles suburb of Altadena to Paul Van Houten and Jane. Let's see. She grew up in a middle-class church-going family, again, a background with the church, along with an older brother and 2 adopted siblings, a brother and a sister who were Korean. Her mother and father divorced when she was 14. She began, taking LSD, Benadryl, and smoking hash, lovely hash, or is it hashish, around age 15, running away for some time, but then returning to complete high school. She said that later, when she was 17, she became pregnant and was ordered by her mother to have an abortion and then bury the fetus in her backyard, which during that time, that was probably not uncommon. Come with recent events, obviously. With
recent events, it's about to become common again.
Right. So thanks for that, y'all. But
get ready to find a bunch of dead babies.
Yep. But save the children, though. But anyway. So So after that, Leslie stated that after this event, she felt very removed from her mother and had a very intense loathing for her, for obvious reasons. There was a period of time where she had an interest in yoga and then actually took a year-long course for it, became a hippie, living in a commune, probably just trying to find some sort of peace within herself after that. And after a few months in a commune in Northern California, Leslie met Catherine Scher and Bobby, I hope I'm saying this correctly, Bugliosi. There we go. Yeah. All right, lovely. And moved in with them and another woman during the Summer of Love in 1968. The 4 broke up after jealous arguments, because, of course. And Cher left to join Charles Manson's commune. Leslie, then 19, decided to follow Cher, and she phoned her mother to say that she was dropping out and just would not be making contact with her again.
Yeah. So, and that brings us to Linda Casabian. Yeah. It's sad, but Linda
gets worse.
Yeah, it gets worse. Linda Casabian, she's actually got a little bit longer of an entry, so I'm gonna try and plow through this, but So Linda Darlene Druin was born June 21st, 1949 in Biddleford, Maine, and raised in the New England town of Milford, New Hampshire. Her father, Rosaire Druin, was a construction worker of a French-Canadian ancestry. Her mother, Joyce Taylor, was a homemaker. They struggled financially in a working-class home, and her parents often did not get along, and her father eventually left when she was a young child. Both of her parents remarried a short time later, and then her father moved to Miami. She was the eldest child, and her mother, Joyce, has remarked that with so many younger children and stepchildren to care for, she was not available to devote the necessary attention to her teenage daughter. I didn't have time to listen to her problems. A lot of what has happened to Linda is my fault, she admitted. So
at least she admits it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. As a child, Casabian was described by friends, neighbors, and teachers as intelligent and a good student, but a starry-eyed romantic. She was regarded as kind and shy, but forced to grow up too soon. She dropped out of high school and ran away from home at the age of 16 due to conflict with her stepfather, Jake Bird, whom she claimed mistreated both her and her mother. Linda would then travel to the West Coast looking for God, and at 16 married a man named Robert Peasley, but divorced a short time later. She briefly moved to Miami and tried to reconnect with her father, who was working as a bartender, but they again drifted apart before long. She then traveled to Boston and remarried and gave birth to a daughter in 1968. When her second marriage to Robert Casabian began to sour, Linda and her baby daughter Tanya returned to New Hampshire to live with her mother. Later, Robert contacted Linda and invited her to meet him in Los Angeles. He wanted her to join him and a friend, Charles Blackbeard Melton, on a sailing trip to South America. Linda, who was hoping for a reconciliation with Robert, returned to Los Angeles to live with him in Topanga Canyon. By the time she became pregnant with her second child, Casaban was feeling neglected by her husband, who had ultimately left her behind for the South American sailing trip. Because he was just like, hey, come out to South America. We'll like reconnect. We'll get back together. Like, we'll go to sail the world together. And she was like, you know what? Yeah, like let's try it again. I'll give it a shot for Tanya's sake. That didn't work.
And then just left.
Yeah. And then him and his boyfriend just fucked right off. And I'm not saying that to be derogatory, but yeah, it's obvious he cared much more about his friend than he cared about the mother of his children.
Very typical for guys that don't want to grow up.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Anyways. So through Charles Blackbeard Melton, she had met Catherine Scher, who told Linda about an idyllic ranch outside of LA where a group of hippies were establishing a hole-in-the-earth paradise to escape. Okay, we're going to get into this a little bit further down. But to escape an upcoming race war, which they referred to as Helter Skelter. Named after the Beatles song, I Am Not Joking, I Wish I Was.
Yep.
To Casaban, the ranch situation sounded like the Hopi legends that she had read about as a girl, and she was intrigued. So in the early summer, she decided against attending a 4th of July Malibu love-in, and instead, with her daughter Tanya in tow, joined her friend Catherine Scher and traveled to Spawn Ranch in the Chatsworth area outside of Los Angeles, where she met Charles Manson. I'm going to go a little bit off script here, where she met Charles Manson, engaged in several orgies over the weekend, and soon became a member of his family.
I really hope her daughter was not there to see that.
No. They had a little area where all the kids hung out because they didn't believe in like one person raising one child. They believed that the children were to be raised by everyone. However, here is a horrifying fact about life for the children, the family. If someone gave birth to a child, Charlie usually made them put the baby outside overnight. Like literally it would come out of the womb. He would like cut the umbilical cord with guitar strings and then put the baby outside. And if the baby died, it was because it wasn't strong enough to live in his new world. True story.
Wow, Charles, you're also a gatekeeper of life. Good job. So that brings us to another iconic member, Tex Watson. So to those who are honestly familiar with the case, you know who he is, but let's get into it anyway. So Watson was born in Dallas, Texas, December 12th, 1945.
Second.
What now?
You said December 12th. It's December 2nd.
Oh, my bad. Sorry. Why did I see the 12th? My bad. All right. Yes. December
it's okay.
2nd.
It's okay.
All right. Sorry about that. All right. He was the youngest of 3 children. He grew up attending church locally and was an honor student, editor of the school paper, captain of the football team, set a state record for the low hurdles at Farmersville High School. So he was just a star,
Yeah.
He had it, just like with Leslie. Was it Leslie? Yeah. He had a lot going for him. So in September 1964, he moved to Denton, Texas to attend the University of North Texas, where he became a member of, oh geez, wow, really?
Yeah.
He became a member of the Pi Kappa Alpha?
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah.
He really had it good. Like, shit. I didn't know that part. But yeah, so he really had it. He was going up, you know? And then in 1967, in January, Watson began working at the Brantniff International as a baggage handler. Using free airline tickets to travel, he used a frat brother in Los Angeles, where he became interested in the psychedelic and music lifestyle in the 1960s, you know, as everybody did.
Mm-hmm.
And then one day, Watson picked up the Beach Boys, Dennis Wilson, which that makes sense, you know, how the cross came together, while he was hitchhiking, and brought him to his house, where he was first introduced to the Manson family, who lived with Wilson.
All right. So, obviously, these aren't the only members of the family, but these are the important people that we're going to talk about, because these are the people. These people are the ones who are responsible for one of the most destructive 48 hours in Hollywood history. And obviously, we're going to talk about that, but we need to make it clear this didn't start out with murder. It's not like these people got together and were suddenly like, let's start killing. It was slower. It was more nuanced than that. So, we're going to start out with something that we did just mention, Dennis Wilson. After moving to from the Bay Area to the Los Angeles area, Charles Manson found the LA area to be exactly what he was looking for. As a man who preached his own version of whatever it was that people were looking for at the time, he was happy to find so many doing the same thing on the West Coast in the 60s. And at this time, they were staying with whatever current follower or friend they had who would allow all of them to stay with them. And Charlie would send some of the girls to hitchhike and bring more people to his side, or to find a new place for them to stay, or whatever. But two of the girls were hitchhiking out on the Sunset Strip in Hollywood and were picked up by none other than the aforementioned Beach Boy drummer Dennis Wilson. Do you want to talk about what happened with Dennis Wilson once he picked them up?
Yes.
Go for it.
God, poor guy. After chatting with the girls, he invited them home, where he told them about his time with the founder of the Transcendental meditation, to which the girls replied that they too had a yogi, Charles Manson, of course, you know. So a few nights later, Dennis came home to find a bus out front, and from it emerged the one and only Charles Manson, who began to stay with Dennis. They stayed for weeks.
Hey there, Dennis.
Hi, Dennis.
Hey there, Dennis. I'm here to hang out forever.
It's like, okay, that's totally not creepy beyond
I
all
have
means.
a bunch of acid and women who will suck your dick.
Oh, okay. Here, I'll open the door. Let me get the keys.
Thank you. That's pretty much what happened.
Yeah. So they stayed for weeks, you know, partied it up, and then eventually Charlie got one of his songs as a B-side of a Beach Boys single. So he weaseled his way into it, which began his fall from grace with Dennis after demanding his royalties for the song over and over again, and never accepting that the song wasn't going to be a hit, and he and the women, you know, got the fuck out of there. So,
yeah.
To me, I feel like
sorry.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. I feel like Dennis dodged a bullet with that. Like that would have been horrible. But anyways, we'll continue.
There's more to that story. We're glossing over some of the like hard details of that, but I will tell you more about that story sometime.
Oh yeah.
Because it's crazy. But anyways, they soon found refuge on the old Spawn movie ranch and continued their chaotic lifestyle. They would ride dune buggies around the Santa Susana Hills. They would hitchhike to and from Hollywood, have orgies. They would hang out in the caves in the Santa Susana Hills, which are still there, by the way, and are literally the reason that I own something that actually belonged to the Manson family. I'm going to take a quick little break to tell my little Manson family story
Yeah, go
now.
for it.
So my stepdad owns a record store in California. It's called Better Records. It's in Thousand Oaks. It's like 25 minutes away from the caves, maybe 35 with traffic, you know? But anyways, so one day this guy comes into the store. He's got a box of records and like some other knickknacks and random stuff. And my stepdad looks through the records and then he looks through the random stuff and he pulls this out and he says, "Tell me about this." So the guy goes, "Okay, I was a kid in the 60s and I used to go hiking up in the Santa Susana Hills. Like I grew up in Simi. Grew up around there. Like that's just what we did. We would go hiking up in the hills and we'd like play around in the caves because there were a lot of caves there."
Right.
So one day he and his friends decided to go hiking up to the caves. And when they were there, they were accosted by a bunch of hippies. And the hippies were like, "Get out of here, like go away. These are our caves." And they were like, "Oh, fucking hippies, man. Fuck that." So they left and didn't really think about it. And so they kind of just like were doing their thing and everything. And a while later, this guy's dad and him are like watching TV and his parents are watching TV and he came into the room and it was like right after Sharon Tate had been murdered.
Right.
And it was like the day that Charles Manson had been arrested and his mugshot gets put on TV. And the kid's like, "Oh, that's that like crazy hippie guy that was throwing rocks at me and my buddies, me and my pally good boys." I don't know what they called them in the 60s. Me and my good time Charlies.
Yeah.
That sounds right.
Something
That
old,
sounds right for the
good old
60s.
chaps. I don't know.
Yeah. My
No, that's two 20s.
my good me and my buddy boys.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, why not? Anyways, so that's those hippies that were throwing rocks at me and my buddy boys. I'm going with it. So after that, since they saw that the hippies had been arrested, they went back out to the caves. And I'm gonna throw up a picture of the Manson family in the caves real quick. There we go. See, these are the caves that they're like hanging out in. That's Tex Watson on the end right there.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, so they go and they find a whole bunch of crap that the hippies had left behind. So much for taking care of the environment.
Right.
And this was one of the things that they had left behind. So my stepdad bought it. And when I was maybe 13 or 14, I read Helter Skelter by no relation Vincent Bugliosi, who was the prosecutor for the case. And after I finished reading that, I went out to this like display case that my stepdad had where this was. And I took it and brought it into my room. And then I wanted to cleanse it. That's why I took it. I took it to cleanse it. And then I ended up just leaving it in my room and on my altar like a fucking genius.
Right.
So anyways, like 2 years later, my stepdad walks into my room and is like talking to me about something or other. And then he like looks at my altar and he goes, "Oh," it's like sitting there, just like vibing, minding its own business. And my stepdad's like, "Oh, did you just take that? I just noticed that it was missing." And I was like, yeah, I just took it. I wanted to take a picture of it." And he was like, "Oh, you can have it." So that is how something that once belonged to Charles Manson ended up in my hands.
That is beautiful.
I sage the shit out of that thing every 6 months.
Yeah, I don't blame you. I don't blame you at all.
And it does not sit near my altar anymore because I'm not a dumb bitch.
Right. Well, I mean, we know you're not, but
I was a stupid teenager. Okay, I was a stupid teenager. Yeah, so I was a dumbass teenager who left that on my altar for years. And now that I know what I'm doing, I'm like, wow, I was stupid.
Right.
So yeah, that is my little connection to Charles Manson.
Yay! Well, I mean, not yay, but also yay. The unenthusiastic yay. There you go.
One of a kind. It's,
yes.
It's one of a kind. It's something that was around the Manson family, and it's still got wax on it. As you can see.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that's from my stepdad's ex-wife or from the Manson family or from that guy that had it before, but I keep it right here with my postcard of Charles Manson from the Museum of Death, and usually under my Cults People magazine, but since we're using it, we gotta use that. Charles Manson.
Yes.
I've decided that's what he sounds like. I've heard his voice. I have his album, but that is the voice that I'm going with for Charles Manson.
Gotcha.
Because he is stupid, and therefore his voice should sound stupid.
Yes, them's the rules.
Instead of him sounding like some dumb hillbilly, I'm Charles Manson. You gotta listen to me because I know you know what. Actually, that works too because he's stupid.
That works.
Yeah. It was funny. I was actually like watching an interview with him recently, and I didn't realize how many tattoos Charles Manson had. And I was like, oh shit, he has a lot of tattoos. You don't really see guys from that era with lots of tattoos. You know what I mean?
You don't.
Yeah. Anyways, so meh. So they would go hang out in like the caves and they would take LSD. And it was during these LSD trips that Charlie started to change the vibe of the whole group. Would you like to tell us how?
Yes, because he got comfortable. He had his pack. He had his following. So, and what are you going to do when you have a following?
His disciples.
Yes, your disciples. What are you going to do with them? You're going to take the fuck advantage of them. So while everyone would take 2 or more hits of acid, he would take half a hit because, he wanted to make sure he was staying conscious so he could take, proper advantage of them.
Mm-hmm.
And he would go on and on about how he was the second coming of Christ, how he would explain that there was going to be a great race war, the Helter Skelter, where he and his followers would hide in Death Valley at the bottom of a bottomless pit. Lovely.
Great logic.
Right.
Great logic. Yeah.
And he would go on to explain that when they emerged from the pit, only the Black Muslims would be alive and they wouldn't know how to run the world, thus needing Charlie, and his people to help run the world. So your typical, shitty ass fucking white cis male racism, Yeah,
the reason that the Black Muslims wouldn't know how to run the world is because they were Black. And Black people have never been in power and need white people to teach them how to do things.
According to Manson's.
According to Manson, we are not endorsing or saying that at all. That is straight from the mouth of Charles Manson, and fuck that guy.
Yeah, who genuinely believed that baloney. So, I guess he forgot that Egypt existed and, but anyways,
I would not put it past Charles Manson to not know about ancient Egypt.
Probably not.
Yeah.
He doesn't look like the kind of guy who learned anything outside of the US. So, yeah.
I don't know what you're talking about. I'm Charles Manson. I'm the real Pharaoh. I'm the real Jesus Christ. I am Moses.
Of course you are, Mr. Manson. Why don't you take your 90-night pills? You're good.
I don't want my 90-night pills. I want to have an orgy and put babies outside.
That sounds like a terrible time, Charles.
It's a great time. Have you ever done it?
Once. I'm joking, but anyway. I'm seriously joking. Oh my god.
Oh my god.
The worst I've ever done is eat ice cream out of a carton with a spoon. Come on now.
Okay. The stupidest I've ever done is eat ice cream out of the carton with a fork because I was too lazy to clean a spoon.
I mean, you can stab it if the ice cream's too hard.
Scoop it, kind of. If it's hard,
kinda.
It's still scoopable.
It works.
I was just really lazy.
That's valid.
Yeah. Anyways.
Anyway, so yeah, things started definitely taking a darker turn with the group, which brings us to the murder that set the chain of events that would end the way the 60s were perceived. He killed the 60s.
He did. He didn't just kill a lot of people. I'm trying to count. Like between 10 and 15 people is my guess.
Yeah.
There's 9 confirmed, but there is a lot of discourse between that. But anyways,
Right.
so that brings us to Gary Allen Hinman.
Yes.
He was a music teacher and a PhD student at UCLA. And at some point in the late 60s, he befriended the members of the hiccup. At some point in the late 60s, he befriended the members of the Manson family, allowing some to occasionally stay at his home. Now, according to some people, including Susan Atkins, Manson believed that Gary Hinman was wealthy and sent family members Bobby Bugliosi, Mary Brunner, and Susan Atkins to Hinman's home on July 25th, 1969 to convince him to officially join the family and turn over the assets that Manson thought that Hinman had inherited. The 3 individuals held the uncooperative Gary Hinman hostage for 2 days, during which time Charles Manson arrived with a sword.
That's such a random thing to show up with.
I swear to God, Charles Manson would not be like, if he wasn't around in the 60s, if he was around like now, he would totally be one of those weaselly little guys that had like a fucking fedora.
Probably.
Like, couldn't you totally see that?
Yeah.
Yeah. I could absolutely see that. Like, he's got like a fedora and he's just like, and like a katana. Like,
yeah, he would be the
weeb,
the fedora wearing weeb that smells like Cheetos.
Yeah. I've got the power of God and anime on my side. That's Charles Manson in a nutshell. If we had to assign vines, which is something that I am now going to be doing, if we had to assign vines to serial killers, that one's Charles Manson's.
Yep. We should do that at some point.
We should totally do that for
make a compilation
Patreon.
video of it.
We should do that for our Patreon. Don't forget, if you like what we do, you can go ahead and see more down below. Patreon.com/ChardonnayTC. That's Patreon.com/ChardonnayTC. ChardonnHaayTC. Anyways, so he arrived with a sword and slashed his ear off.
What did he think? He was King Arthur or something? Like,
I don't know. And after that, apparently, Bobby Bugliosi stabbed Gary to death, allegedly on Charles' instruction. And before leaving the Topanga Canyon residence, Bugliosi or one of the women, it's not clear who, used Gary's blood to write "Political Piggy" on the wall and draw a panther paw, which was the symbol of the Black Panthers, because they wanted to throw the scent off of themselves and they were racists.
Yep.
Yeah.
God. That is such bullshit.
We're racist. We're going to make sure that... Okay, I went a little JFK there. Hang on. I don't know why I went JFK there. We're racists. I mean, it works.
It does work.
The Kennedy family is definitely racist.
Yeah.
Hang on. Nope. All I can do is Kennedy now. I can't do it.
We'll try again later.
We'll try again later. We'll try again later. Now, as usual, the people involved with this case are very unreliable. So it's hard to know the exact truth. But it is important to talk about what happened to Gary to understand what was going to happen next. According to Manson and Bugliosi in magazine interviews of 1981 and 1998 and 1999, Bugliosi said he went over to Hinman's to recover money paid to Hinman for mescaline provided to the Straight Satans, who were a motorcycle gang that hung around at Spawn Ranch with Charles and the girls because, the girls were around so they could fuck the girls, and like Charlie could pretend like he was a badass because he hung around with bikers.
Right. Yeah.
It's like a whole bunch of like typical alpha male bullshit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So anyways, that was what he and Bugliosi said. And supposedly the mescaline that Gary had gotten them was bad. And Gary added that Mary Brunner and Susan Atkins were unaware of his intent and were along merely to visit with Gary. Now, Susan, in her autobiography in 1977, wrote that Manson had directly told Bobby, Susan, and Mary to go to Gary's and get the supposed inheritance of $21,000. She said that 2 days earlier, Manson had told her privately that if she wanted to do something important, that she could kill Hinman and get his money. Bobby Bugliosi was arrested on August 6th, 1969, after he was caught driving Gary's car, and police found the murder weapon in the tire well.
Jeez.
These are not smart people.
They don't. Well, I mean, we kind of figured, but
so
anyway.
That brings us to the events of August 8th, 1969.
Yep. All right. So the night that we all know of, August 8th, 1969, Tex Watson took Susan Atkins, Linda, and Patricia to CIELO Drive in CIELO Drive in Benedict Canyon, which was formerly the home of one of Dennis Wilson's friends that Charlie knew about and had been to in the past. So that kind of is why he picked that location in the first place. There's some discord about whether or not the family knew that Terry was no longer living in that house, but Tex Watson claims that Charles Manson had instructed him to go to the house and totally destroy everyone in it and do it as gruesome as you can. So Mason told, the women to just do whatever Tex told them to do.
Yeah.
The occupants of the house that evening were movie actress Sharon Tate, who was 8.5 months pregnant, and the wife of the film and she was the wife of the film director Roman Polanski, which we'll talk about him later. But we'll talk about him later. But her friend and former lover Jay Sebring, a noted celebrity hairstylist, and then Polanski's friend. Oh my gosh! Yes. And then his girlfriend, Abigail Folger, who was who inherited the Folgers coffee fortune, cool.
Yeah, she's the coffee heiress. But here's an interesting thing about Abigail Folger. Abigail Folger was incredibly wealthy already because her family was the coffee people. However, she decided to become, she wasn't a typical heiress or anything like that. She was a social worker.
Mm-hmm.
She was trying to do good in the world. Wojciech Fryczowski, he was there to keep Sharon safe while Roman was overseas, working on his next movie.
Right.
And Jay Sebring, I mean, the man, we'll get into what happened. We'll get into it.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Whew. So Watson and the three women arrived at the house past midnight, and then Watson climbed a telephone pole near the entrance gate and cut the phone line to the house. The group backed their car into the bottom of the hill that led to the estate and walked up to the house. They thought that the gate might be electrified or equipped with an alarm, so they tried to climb the right side of the gate, which was a little less secure, and then entered the grounds.
So once they were on the ground, this is where things get even more sad. And for me, this is like one of the like true injustices behind this case is that everyone talks about Sharon Tate, everyone talks about Wojciech Fryczowski, Abigail Folger, Jay Sebring, but nobody talks about this man. Now, headlights approached them from within the property, and Tex ordered the women to lie in the bushes. He stepped out and ordered the approaching driver to a halt. Stephen Parent had been visiting the property's caretaker, William Garrettson, who lived in the guest house. Tex leveled a .22 caliber revolver at Stephen, who begged him not to hurt him, claiming he wouldn't say anything. But Tex lunged at Stephen with a knife, giving him a defensive slash wound on the palm of his hand that severed the tendons and tore his watch off of his wrist, and then shot him 4 times in the chest and abdomen, killing him in the front seat of his white 1965 AMC Ambassador coupe. Tex ordered the women to help him push the car further up the driveway. Next, he cut out the screen of a window, then told Linda to keep watch down by the gate. She walked over to Stephen's car and waited. Tex removed the screen and entered through the window and let Susan and Patricia in through the front door. He whispered to Susan and awoke Wojciech Fryczowski, who had been sleeping on the couch in the living room. Tex kicked him in the head, and Wojciech asked him who he was and what he was doing there, to which Tex Watson replied, "I'm the devil, and I'm here to do the devil's business."
Jeez. So edgy, but
Serious
also very sad. They actually quoted that in, God, what was it? The Devil's Rejects.
Oh, yeah. I was going to say Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Mm-hmm.
Which they did quote it in there, too.
Right.
But don't get me started on that. We'll talk about that movie in the next part.
Right. So on Watson's directions, Adkins found the house, the 3 other occupants in the house, and forced them into the living room, where Watson began to tie Tate and, tie them all together by their necks with the rope that he had brought, and slung it over one of the living room ceiling beams. Jesus Christ. Yeah. So they were, trying really hard to protect Tate, like, hey, chill out. She's pregnant, especially,
J.C. Bring.
Yeah. J.C. Bring, and Watson shot him. Yeah. Yeah. So Folger was taken momentarily back to her bedroom to find her purse, and she gave the murderers $70, and then Watson, Watson stabbed Jay 7 times. Jesus Christ.
Wojciech Fryczowski's hands had been bound with a towel, but he freed himself and began struggling with Susan Atkins, who stabbed at his legs with a knife. He fought his way out of the door and onto the porch, but Tex caught up with him and struck him over the head with the gun multiple times, stabbing him repeatedly, and then shot him twice.
Jeez, it's brutal. Yeah, so geez, sorry. Yeah, so yeah. So oh geez. Yeah. Casabian heard the horrifying sounds, obviously people dying, and then moved towards the house from her position in the driveway. She told Susan that someone was coming in an attempt to stop the murders. Inside the house, Folger escaped and fled out the bedroom window to the pool area. And then that's when, oh my gosh.
Patricia.
Yeah, Patricia, sorry. Pursued her, caught her in the lawn, the front lawn, and then stabbed her, tackled her to the ground, and then stabbed her a total of 28 times. Jesus Christ. All right. Oh, that's a lot.
Yeah.
So yeah, it wasn't Jay. Jesus.
Wojciech.
Yeah, sorry, my thing froze for a second.
Oh,
anyways.
You're good.
Oh my gosh, where am I? Oh yeah, there I am. Okay, yeah. So yeah, he struggled across the line, but then Watson continued to stab him and then killed him too. He stabbed him 51 times and then struck him 13 times in the head with the gun, which bent the barrel and broke off one side of the gun, which was recovered at the scene. In the house, this is the part that just hurts my heart so much because I remember them talking about this in the during the trial. Tate pleaded to be allowed to live long enough to give birth to her baby, and even offered herself as a hostage because, you know, her husband was super rich at the time, in an attempt to save her life and her kid. But then both Adkins and Watson stabbed her 16 times and killing her. Like, they actually did confess in the trial that before they stabbed her, they flat out said, "We're not showing any mercy."
They said, "We don't give a shit about you or your baby, bitch."
Yeah.
Yeah. I will say this.
Mm-hmm.
As per the autopsy of Sharon Tate,
Mm-hmm.
the baby was a fully formed boy. He would have been totally fine if they had even cut him out of her. He would have survived. And it took over 20 minutes for that baby to smother to death inside of his mother's stomach.
Ah, jeez. That really sucks.
According to Tex Watson, Charles Manson had told him and the women to leave a sign, something witchy. So Susan Atkins wrote "pig" on the front door in Tate's blood to mirror what had been left at Gary Hinman's house.
Yeah.
So that the police would think that there was still a killer on the loose and that Bobby Bugliosi could not have murdered Gary Hinman.
Right.
And that is where we are going to leave off tonight's episode. And next week, we will pick up with the LaBianca murders. We will pick up with the case. And we're going to go all the way to what the Manson family is up to now, because I hate it.
Oh, yeah. At least Manson's dead.
I never told them to kill nobody. I just told them to do what they thought was right.
Oh, my Jesus.
That is an actual quote from the trial.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And also another quote from him, while in the middle of an interview, goes, "Excuse me, I need to go and take a shit." I don't know why I remember that. I just remember watching it like on TV a long time ago. Like, you know, he was trying to make himself out like, oh, I'm not as bad as like what all these other people are doing, and then just gets up abruptly. "Excuse me, I gotta go take a shit." He was a weirdo.
Yeah.
Well, that's an understatement, but
we could do a whole video where we rate Charles Manson quotes from like whatever to like the most pretentious fucking douchebag in the world.
Yep.
We should totally do that.
We should.
Check out our Patreon to see that video because it's going to happen now.
Yep.
And in the meantime, don't forget to like and follow us and stay tuned because Friday we will be bringing you the chilling conclusion of the Manson family. And then who have we got after the Manson family? Is it Henry Lee Lucas?
Henry Lee, yes.
Yeah? Okay. Oh boy.
It's going to be a doozy.
Oh God, it's going to be disgusting.
It is going to be disgusting. A disgusting doozy.
It's going to be yucky. So, all right. What are your thoughts on what's been happening so far, CM? Because
so far, I see a lot of very weak people that were just following a very weak follower that just happened to know what to say at the right time, and then just happened to get lucky with certain celebrities and shit, you know?
Yeah.
Or at least that's just, you know, kind of how I see it. Like, I agree that it's like absolutely a very iconic case, Because, I mean, everybody in true crime knows Charles Manson and his family.
I'll say this, as far as true crime goes, I have been extremely irritated. I used to be a very big fan of a very popular true crime series podcast. You know which one I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And they were very much saying Charles Manson did nothing wrong. I am not.
See, that's why I never listened to them, because
I'm not joking. They were like, "Oh, he was in too deep with his followers and he couldn't get out." And blah, blah, blah.
I'm going to be honest, that's the main reason I never gave them a chance, because they're the equivalent of white men who don't know how to shut the fuck up. That's just my humble opinion. People don't have to agree with me, but
For the
anyway,
record, I did not pay money for that book. It was a gift.
that's okay. Anyway, so do we want to show the no-no list?
Let's talk about the no-no names.
Yes, the no-no names.
I have to update the no-no names list before next week, but so far, do not trust anyone named Todd, Tommy, Richard, Rodney, or David.
We should add Charles to it.
Or Charles. Yeah.
Yes.
100%. So, have a great night, everyone. We will see you on Friday. Keep an eye out for the no-no names, and just don't follow skeezy 5'3" skinny hippie guys.
Yep. Even if they have really good weed. Just go to a dispensary.
Nobody had good weed.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Nobody did. Yeah. No. Just go to a dispensary if you're in California. Or Colorado. Yeah.
Just go to a dispensary. Don't follow some fucking weirdo hippies in a painted black school bus. It's not worth it. It's never worth it.
It's not.
Good night.
Good night.